One. Hi, I'm Tom Hill III here at Strike Zone Studios in Upper Higher Wolcott, and I'm with Bob the Builder from Warner Consulting. Hi, Bob.
Hey, how you doing, Tom? Kevin, my name is Bob Warner from Warner Consulting and Construction, and we're here today talking with Kevin Taylor from Nest, a nonprofit out of Waterbury. Kevin, give us a little rundown on who you are, what you do, what your nonprofit's about.
My name is Kevin Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Nest, which is located in Waterbury, Connecticut. A little bit about myself. I'm a resident of Waterbury, born and raised, and still reside in a home that I grew up in. Graduated from Kennedy High School, and for 6 years of my life, I was in Hampton, Virginia, where I attended Hampton University, where I studied architecture. After that, I came back to Connecticut, to Waterbury, and worked for a few firms throughout the state. Ames and Whitaker Architect in Waterbury.
Great reputation.
Yes, great gentlemen. They're a great firm and great bunch of folks to work with. JCJ Architecture in Hartford. And then a little stint on my own, along with a friend of mine. We started our own practice, and then which was Epiphany Design Studios. And then from there, I went on into economic development as the senior project manager for the Waterbury Development Corporation.
More good experience.
Yep. It's sort of a quasi-entity, and my very first project that I oversaw there was the restoration and construction of the Waterbury City Hall, which was about a $36 million project, and also oversaw brownfield redevelopment, which we, at the time of doing that, Waterbury was noted as one of the top-ranking brownfield, well, I shouldn't say ranking, but top notable brownfield
Hosts.
But our approach to addressing brownfield redevelopment within the city of Waterbury, to the point where I during that time I received an award from EPA for our, acknowledgement of the work that we were doing in Waterbury regarding brownfields. And we did a bunch of other host of projects as well that during my time there. And then from there, this position opened up at Nest, which was formerly known as Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury, where we focus on community revitalization, affordable home ownership, and education and counseling around those particular things as well.
Excellent. What kind of projects are you involved with now?
So we mainly focus on home ownership. A lot of the work that we are doing is specifically in the Crown Brook neighborhood of Waterbury, which is located in the north end of Waterbury. Reason why we're focusing on home ownership, one is because we had a meeting with the community, with the residents of the Crown Brook neighborhood, and they stated to us that there was a lack of ownership, community ownership, but also ownership when it comes to homeowners. 83% of the households in the Crown Brook neighborhood are renters. And they felt that in order for the neighborhood to be revitalized, they needed more folks who were invested in the neighborhood.
Bob the Builder, do you believe in that concept of what he's talking about as a home builder?
Yeah, I think home ownership is, long-standing key to success, right? And you give people the opportunity to own their own home. People tend to take care of things a little differently than when they don't. So I think it's a great.
I agree, and then you have that issue. You have the issue of the absentee landlords. Majority of the folks who own the homes, they don't live within the city. They live out of the state or other parts of towns and throughout the state of Connecticut. So once again, just trying to bring in that more investment as far as individuals or households are concerned. And to your point about home ownership and the key to it, it also builds generational wealth. I mean, outside of maybe investing in the stock market and opening up your own business, coming up with some widget or gadget that sells millions of dollars to that's valuable in the amount of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. The one in, I guess you can say, practical way of being able to build equity and generational wealth is through home ownership. So
Big time. And you mentioned absentee ownership. Bob the Builder, you could probably talk a little bit about property management. And what is it with these absentee owners? Wouldn't they want to do maintenance and property management to have a better asset long term?
You know, you would think so, but, you know, everybody's got different objectives. And I think that owners that, as you said, are more invested in the community, whether it be a landlord or an individual property owner, are going to make a big difference. If they're people that are just acquiring investment property and not really, they're just looking at the bottom line that they get from it and not really invested in the community itself, makes a big difference.
Yeah, but the Waterbury Housing Fund is invested in a lot of developers around that maintain their properties beautiful. And I see, Kevin, you see both sides of that, and I wish you the best of luck in home ownership because I think we all agree that's where it should be.
agreed, and thank you for that. But we also focus on rental just as well. We know that although we're going to build some home ownership or create some home ownership opportunities for folks, we also understand that there is still a need for some quality, affordable rental.
Well, Legacy's run a nice shop.
Yeah, look, they're the model, at least I would say, when it comes to being landlords in the city of Waterbury. You know, I've had a couple of conversations with some of them, and I kind of study their model. We only own 10 units of rental housing, but we do plan on expanding our portfolio to a minimum of 200 units, but using them as the model of how to operate and how to be present within the the units that you manage and own. They are the standard and a good model to follow.
Listen, I think whether it's individual ownership or what you're talking about with increasing your rental properties from, would you say 10 or 20 to 200?
Yeah.
And that's all basically redevelopment of the city in the residential areas, and that's what you need to help turn things to a better place. So I think that's a great job right there.
What's Nest's geography these days?
So,
Or market area?
yeah, so our service area is Western Connecticut. So basically along Route 8, going all the way up to Torrington and down to Danbury. We also have a satellite office, which is located in Danbury, which we opened up last year in partnership with LEED. So that's our service area. However, we do service the state as a whole when it comes to our education and counseling classes for first-time home buyer, landlord, financial education, foreclosure prevention, and post-purchase and rental education. And we've also served folks out of the state. We've been known to help, or we have a history of helping folks from New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. This past year, we serviced some folks in Florida and as far as California.
I'm assuming, just like you mentioned, I can't remember his name, the other developer that owns rental properties. Legacy, that you like to emulate what they may be trying to do. I'm assuming if you do a great job at Nest, you got other agencies that are type like you that are calling you to try to find out what you do and how and whatnot. Do you find that happening quite a bit?
Well, what we do have is we have a network. So Nest is an affiliate of NeighborWorks America, which is a federally created entity that has 240 plus other organizations underneath them throughout the U.S., including Puerto Rico. And so what's great about that is we have a network of like-minded and like organizations throughout the U.S. where we can have conversations about best practices, what's working here, what worked for us, what failed for us, what we are trying to do. So we always got a plethora of knowledge and information afforded to us through this network. And outside of us, there's 6 other organizations in the state of Connecticut that are also part of the NeighborWorks network. So, that camaraderie and those conversations and that peer learning among the organizations has been beneficial to us. So we're never out here trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just learning from one another as to what are the best practices. And then if we do invent the wheel, then we're sharing that with the other.
I would imagine part of, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right here, but part of what you do in trying to create home ownership is, do you partner with any particular financial institutions or anything like that?
Yes. So our projects require, at a minimum, I would say, 3 funding sources. Usually, they can be from 3 to 6 funding sources. So CHFA is key in a lot of the work that we do, whether from the education side of things, but also from the building side. We also partner with the Department of Housing, which, of course, their focus is providing workforce and affordable housing throughout the state. So they are a key funder in the projects. The City of Waterbury, through the home and CDBG funds that they receive from HUD, is also one of our partners when it comes to the development of our projects. And then you got a lot of different financial institutions that we work with, whether it's Webster Bank, whether it's Ion Bank, Thomaston Savings Bank. Those are some of the ones that I could think offhand.
Ives Bank is involved.
Yep,
with their
Ives
foundation in
Banks.
Waterbury.
M&T Bank is a supporter of the work that we do. So between the state, the city, and the various financial institutions, and then we have donors. We have folks who believe in the work that we're doing and may want to contribute to a specific project or a specific program that we're offering just as well.
Bob the Builder, you can expand on this. Money makes the world go round.
Yeah, well, listen, if you have the right people that support you, it makes it easier. How do Waterbury citizens know of you, find out about you, apply to maybe various programs you might have, whether they be home ownership or rental units, et cetera?
Yep. So first and foremost, you can definitely go to our website, which is nestct.org. And you can find out all the information that you need regarding our developments, future opportunities for home ownership, or even just about our education and counseling programs. We also have a revolving loan fund as well, which we just kicked off last year. So that's an opportunity to folks who are looking for home repair loans, credit builder loans, or even micro business loans. Also, a lot of the way people find out about us is through word of mouth. I think a lot of the clients and households that we work for, they come to us through word of mouth. We also are tied into CHFA's website, so if you happen to be working through CHFA for a loan or some other type of service, we are referenced through them just as well. So.
We're going to need a time check from our producer, Jeff, in a minute. And we're here. I'm Tom Hill III. This is Bob the Builder Wave and Kevin Taylor. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm assuming, just as with your, again, rental and homeownership properties, that your own offices are, I think you mentioned that you have a few different locations throughout the state, that you really, as a renter or as an owner of properties, you're uplifting those areas as well, whether it be a commercial property in Waterbury you might be occupying or looking to occupy, et cetera.
Yeah, so we've currently been renting space down in the downtown area of Waterbury, but our organization is growing, and as we grow, as far as our developments are concerned, we intend on growing from a staff standpoint, and so we are definitely looking at additional space that we can own ourselves. There is some space behind the building that we currently occupy. It's on Field Street, right across from City Hall. So we're looking into possibly purchasing that building. But then could be other opportunities in some of our future developments where we can. So, for instance, we have a project that we're working on in partnership with the Shekinah Christian Church. It's the old Chase Brass warehouse building on North Main Street.
Big building and impressive. What a history.
186,620 square feet to be exact.
How many floors?
6 stories. In addition to that, there's two ancillary buildings that total slightly over 4,000 square feet. But that's an opportunity there if we consider it to be housed in that development. So
Would make perfect sense. Is that mixed use?
it is mixed use, mixed income. So once again, there's 6 stories, but on the first floor would be commercial space, which will consist of a food market and child care center. And then on the upper floors, it would be 5 floors of housing, ranging from studios to 2 bedrooms, and with some additional communal space for the residents, like a fitness center and lounge areas.
That's fantastic. I'm trying to. You both know the city better than I. So
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. And so I'm trying to picture where this is. But again, I think it uplifts the neighborhood around it as well, I would assume.
If you're buying lunch, I'll give you a tour.
Yes, I'll take that.
Yeah, it does. When you think about Waterbury and the history, the whole history around the brass and the manufacturing, that made up a lot of the jobs in the city of Waterbury and a lot of the, you can say, property.
Yeah, giant facilities all
Yeah,
over town.
giant
Whoppers.
facilities. Yeah, and in this particular case, on this property, you're talking about close to 5 acres within the urban area. And so when these factories are no longer, that means that jobs are no longer for the people who live within that neighborhood. And now you have these buildings that have been vacant and derelict for many of years. So the ability to repurpose this building for the need of the community is extremely important. But even when we talk about the development that we do, we got to make sure that the word affordable is affordable. It's not affordable at the time of purchase, especially from a home ownership standpoint, but we also want to make sure that it's affordable beyond the purchase so that they're not coming back to us in 3 or 5 years for foreclosure prevention. So the way we do that is we go above and beyond the standards from a code standard, speaking of. So 10-inch thick walls, exterior walls, heavily insulated. Windows are high R values. The insulation in the attics and so forth are above and beyond the R value, the standard R value that's required by code. Also, we tie everything into solar, so we're reducing the homeowners and the renters' energy costs at the end of the day. Could be from anywhere from 60 to 100% annually in savings on your energy costs.
Bob the Builder, are you on that case with single-family houses that you're custom building?
Well, we haven't gone to the extent of solar and whatnot. We've left that up more to the individual owner. But developing buildings like that, having a little bit of experience with it, you talk brownfields, and there's reasons why a lot of those buildings are not redone. They're very costly to do.
And risky.
Yeah, and risky. So private developers, it's really got to be the right situation for that to work for them. And if you have an advantage in doing that, again, you're taking those older, as you said, older properties that have value, but are very costly to renovate and turn into something else. And if you have an advantage in doing that, it's a great way to turn around properties.
Well, we talked about earlier, where does the money come from? And your vast experience in Waterbury with brownfields got to be helpful.
Yeah, especially in that particular project that I'm speaking of. So, working with the COG, the local COG.
COG is?
I'm sorry, the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments.
Thank you.
Working along with EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, of course, to help remediate these properties, get the dollars to remediate these properties. So they've been instrumental thus far in our planning stages for this particular project. But then also, like you said, being able to restore these properties that have been assets to the community for so many, in the past for so many years. To repurpose them once again is just a huge asset. You already got the structure in place. You're not building from ground up,
True.
Which can even be more expensive. But sometimes rehab can even be more expensive than new construction.
Yep.
But once again, you got the infrastructure. The bones are good. Why not try to restore some of this history and make it be a benefit
I
to
agree.
the
You're
community.
sitting with a guy that is Bob the Builder, who has renovated a lot of old factories and homes, and it's tricky business. But you could be a big asset to people that are trying to look at the feasibility of these kind of jobs ahead of time.
Yeah, one of the things we're trying to do is jump in when you might have a piece of property, whether it be offices or et cetera, and help put together what costs may be in turning that building around to suit your needs. So, having done different things, it gives you experience to be able to help out in those areas. So,
And as a real estate broker, this is people are always asking, and we're going to go to you on this one. How come it takes so long to get these things done? There's a million complications, and you're an architect by background. You've had a lot of great assignments and things, and that you talked about before. But how do you answer to that to the people that say, "Oh, these take forever"?
Well, once again, if you have your own money, you put in your own money in, you got investors lined up, projects move along faster. But when you're dealing with public dollars, federal and state dollars, the process takes a little bit longer. First and foremost, the federal government and the state government wants to make sure that what we're doing is to a standard that is going to be of quality, but also safe from an environmental standpoint and any other regulatory standpoint, that it's going to be safe for the future tenants or the future owners. So there's a lot of things that you have to go through, and then there's the period of also raising these dollars. I mean, we're not the only ones in the state doing this type of work. So you might be, just let's say in this particular case, we might be ready for 2025 as far as a project, but there's all these other projects that people are working on, and they've kind of been in the pipeline before we got there with our particular project. So you may not get the money this year, but then you have to, continue to apply, and hopefully you'll get to the point to where your project is approved and you're ready to move forward.
You have a lot of patience. We're going to go to you in a second, Bob. To our audience, if you just tuned in, Bob the Builder, Kevin Taylor, architect and head of Nest, Tom Hill III, broker, Jeff's our producer, and also there's a lot of meat here, a detailed subject. We may have to chop this podcast into a couple, and you can watch it when you have a chance. Bob, back to you.
You talk about funding and maybe you're applying for funding for a project this year and you may not get it till next year, and there's other people in the pipeline. How does that affect the project you're trying to commit to and begin to develop?
So that's what makes it challenging and difficult for a nonprofit. It's not as if we're sitting on a plethora of dollars. So those carrying costs can weigh on the organization. During that time, you own the property, you still got to pay your property taxes. So to cities out there, if we're doing a benefit, hopefully you can waive those taxes for us in the time of holding on to these
Landlords
properties.
do for retail tenants, right, Bob? Yeah. I think a couple we did with you, we had to give, a year's free rent on some of those.
You're giving free rent. You're doing different things to try to make it work.
Yeah.
But do you find any of the cities have any programs to help you with that?
No.
Good question, Bob.
No, I haven't found that to be the case. Maybe there's some conversations to be had with the administration moving forward about nonprofits who are in this development world to be able to ease their burden during the time of these holding patterns with the projects. And then the other thing is, once again, we're not working with a lot of dollars as far as, say, the state and federal. So there's dollars allocated to affordable housing and workforce housing. But it's a certain amount, and that certain amount, once again, has to be spread out among various other organizations or entities out there who are in the same line of business that you are. And so it becomes competitive at the same time. And so once again, you may not score well this year, and so you got to wait till the following year, or once again, due to the competitiveness, there's only a small pool of dollars, and so we may get some dollars to go towards the project, but then it's still not enough to carry us over the threshold to start it. So now we're out there searching for other dollars. And none of these application deadlines all line up. So one may be due in, say, June. Your next one for the other funding source is due in December. Another one may be due early in the year. So that also adds to the timeline. So you might get funded here, but you failed on this particular. So now you got to wait till the next year comes around to reapply.
Sounds like you're going to be working with an Excel spreadsheet to get all these things in line. You and Bob are going to be trying to understand all the costs and to make a compelling statement to the whoever's going to give out the money. So a lot going on here. Are you taking notes out there?
Yeah, and you know, when you look at some of the political climate out there, and you know, federal government that's been overspending for years, and now they're trying to cut back to balance budgets. Are you finding that, maybe not yet, but do you fear that may affect? Because I'm assuming state, like Department of Housing, et cetera, gets federal money and whatnot. Do you feel any crunch on that? Or
I anticipate it'll be you know, the new policies down there in D.C. that there will be an impact when it comes to federal dollars supporting affordable housing initiatives. You know, there's been conversations about slashing HUD as far as the staff by 50%. Federal government, to some extent, already works slow in a lot of ways, and that's at full capacity. If you're talking about slashing the staff at 50%, things are just going to get tied up.
I think, to give Elon credit, I think they're trying to right size and keep the people that really want to work, is the way I'm seeing that.
Well, we could agree to disagree.
Can we wrestle?
And then, you know, once again, the concern of slashing the dollars when it comes to home funds and CDBG funds. You know, we depend on the home funds tremendously when it comes to our projects, as well as the state. We will get home dollars from the state. We'll get home dollars from the city of Waterbury. If that is diminished in any sort of way, that's just either going to burden us even more. And the state already stated that there are about 98,000 units needed in this state as far as affordable. We're already behind the eight ball tremendously. And any impact as far as funding sources are concerned is just going to increase that gap even more over the years.
Kevin Taylor is an awesome guest. How did you get him to drive all the way up here to the Strike Zone Studios?
I bribed him as much as I could with you taking him out to dinner when we're done. Okay,
that'll be fine.
Just know I like porterhouse steak. So
Carmen Anthony's is closed. Sorry. Maybe Steak and Shake in another town. We don't even have one here.
Yeah, that's a southern thing. Steak and Shake. Yeah.
So what have we missed, Bob, today that is still a compelling question?
Well, I think it was a great start. I hope we can work with you to help you in any way. We'll love to tell you more about ourselves in the future and see what ways we might be able to fit in and help support you.
That's great. And I'm open to that. We're always open to partnerships because the work that we do can't be done by one entity. It requires a lot of partnership with other nonprofits and other businesses and so forth out there. So, yeah, I think the greatest impact for me is the stories that I hear from the new homeowners. So when you think about that, we're providing home ownership for folks who, at a minimum, are at 50% of the AMI. AMI being the area median income. And so what keeps me motivated and what keeps me going is the stories I hear as to the struggles of wanting to be a homeowner and finally getting to that stage. A lot of cases, the tears that are shared on the day that they actually cut that ribbon to their new home and receive those keys. And then in one particular case, there was a family that we worked with for 3 years to get them into the position of owning a home. And then they finally bought a home, I believe it was in Bristol. And a couple of years later, they bought a rental property as well. So talking about that general wealth being created, to see a family go from renting to owning a home to now owning an investment property, those are the type of things that make me excited about the work that we do.
Well, not knowing Kevin's fully, I mean, I can only tell you my experience with Department of Housing with Hurricane Sandy.
High boots and a raincoat?
Well, no, these were people who, the Department of Housing would have an architectural firm. Typically, there was one other company that was a construction management company, but they typically had their own representation. People would apply. They would go out, review the property, see if damage was tied into or relevant to Hurricane Sandy, quantify the work that was going to be done, and then if you were an approved contractor, you'd get out information what projects might come up, and you'd go out and look at them, bid them, and if you were the winning bid, you would turn around, perform the work, and I found it to be everybody that they had working from them. For them was great, and the people I dealt with at Department of Housing were excellent too. It was really a very satisfactory experience just from the business side of it, let alone the construction side. But one other thing on what you're doing for housing, it's not just to me. It's one of the reasons I got into residential. As part of what we do is, it's not just the fact that somebody owns the home, but when I was a kid, you drive by the house that was built in like 1782, and you'd be thinking of all the families and all the Christmases or Easters or whatever holidays they might be, and what that home really meant to all those people. And it's kind of cool thinking maybe one day when I'm long gone, something I put up will have a built in 1989 or whatever.
Bob the Builder, you're a very thoughtful man.
Well, it's kind of neat, man. They outlive you if you do a good job.
Yeah. And I think, so as architectural designers, I think we all have egos in some sort of way.
I'll agree to disagree on that.
But it is something to be said about working on a project, designing a project, building a project. That is being constructed and having this edifice be a part of this community, neighborhood, or this world for years and years during your time, but even beyond your, beyond your lifespan. It's you're leaving your mark on the world, and you just want to make sure that whatever that mark is, that is some commendable work at the end of the day.
Back to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, Tom Hill III, CCIM SILR from Tom Hill Realty Investment. Phone 203-755-HILL. Website tomhill.com. Bob the Builder.
Bob Warner from Warner Consulting and Construction, 1188 Wilkett Road in Wilkett, number 203-982-3481. And I want to thank you, Kevin, for coming in today. It's really been educational and really great to hear what you do and how you do it, and we look forward to talking more.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. You didn't put us to sleep. And give us your contacts again, please.
Yes. So Kevin Taylor, Executive Director at Nest. We're located at 193 Grand Street on the 3rd floor in Waterbury, Connecticut. 203-753-1896. And you can also go to our website, which is nestct.org.
And we're here every Thursday from 1 to 3. Jeff's our producer, and if you'd like to make a donation to Nest, we might make you a guest. Thanks, everybody.
There you go.